Welcome to the Grow Patiently podcast. My name is Hugo Trace, and I'm here with Dr. Brad Hughes to speak about his career in healthcare and as a dentist, and to hopefully get some really interesting insights that all of you can take away and use in your own practices. Now, Dr. Brad, he is a successful dentist and entrepreneur, and he scaled multiple practices, and he now has a nine-practice dental group in the United States. But I'm going to pass straight over to Brad to introduce himself, really. Hey, Brad.
Yeah. Hey, Hugo, it's good to be here. I appreciate it. This is gonna be fun. Yeah, so we've scaled multiple practices. We have nine practices in our group between Indiana and South Carolina. Um, it's funny for me to hear you say in the United States because sometimes that
Yeah,
always feels like a given. But you know what? There is a big ass world out there. So um, we there are people that exist besides Americans, despite what many Americans think, by the way. And so I think this will be really fun. I don't know a lot about many things, but I know dentistry. I know how to build a dental group, and I know sports. So as long as we're going to talk about those things, we're good to go.
great. I love it. I wonder how many things you think about in sport and healthcare and how they join together. Because I actually often think about that with our business. I think about, I'm a big Leicester City fan. You probably won't even know who they are. They're a football team. You would call it soccer.
Yeah.
And it's in the middle of the UK. I don't imagine they've probably made their way over there that clearly.
Um, I know someone sitting close to me over here who is shaking his head saying he knows who they are because he's a huge soccer fan. Um, but sports and business intersect in every possible way. It's why you see so many athletes that end up successful entrepreneurs and successful businessmen and businesswomen because it's the same stuff. It's really just about practice, discipline, being able to take 11 punches and get up the 12th time. Like it's all of the same things. It's amazing to me um, how much they really intersect.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, well, let's dive into your story a little bit. Why don't you
Yep.
tell the listeners a bit about, uh, your background in industry? I know it's a big family thing for you, and just give them the rough overview because it is really interesting.
Yeah, I'm a third generation dentist. I was given a speech the other day and this sort of blew my mind and honestly it was almost it was a weirdly emotional thing for me when I kind of came up with this number or when I realized this number, but my grandfather started practicing 71 years ago in 1954, which just like blew my mind. Just at things just fly, don't they? Like time flies. It really is like we get a short little time on Earth and that's it. So my grandfather started practicing in 1954. My dad started practicing in 1980. I started practicing in 2007. Um, I was in Indiana practicing up there for about 11 years, and it's where most of our practices are. We took a practice there. I made a commitment to myself. We were going to triple this practice before I went on and acquired a second practice, and then we would just continue scaling from there along the way. Um, had an opportunity to come down here to South Carolina and practice. Um, and so, my wife and I decided that was the thing for us. So I am down here. We've been here for about 7.5 years with my wife and kids. And yeah, I do some commuting up to Indiana as needed for coaching and mentoring and all those things. And but it's been 18 years in practice, and I'm now entering a phase where I'm moving out of the chair. I have another really good doctor who has replaced me clinically in my practice. So this is sort of the next phase in the business cycle for us at Vision Dental Partners and in my life. But it's really opened me up and freed me up to do all of the things that I've been dreaming about doing for the last 4 or 5 years and to have the time to do it. Um, and it's been 6 or 7, 8 weeks. So I am like, it's been great. Like it is really, I think, going to be amazing for the next phase of the company and for me.
Interesting. Gosh, there's going to be so many things to talk about. I know that you are very big on mentoring young dentists, and you've obviously spoken about how you're elevating yourself to a new position in the business. So I think maybe before we dive into growing the business, I'd be really interested to hear what's your kind of key piece of advice for people who want to be a really successful dentist or a really successful healthcare practitioner, for example, besides getting a business?
Yeah. And that's an amazing question that I probably get asked 10 times a week. And I think it really comes down to, it doesn't matter if you're in dentistry, if you're in medicine, if you're a chiropractor, if you're a veterinarian, like soft skills are where it's at. And when you can develop the soft skills to become incredibly influential, you will be successful. For me, that's authentic communication, storytelling, and charisma. I think those were the three biggest things that I had to really dive into, get better at outside of the hard skills to really to triple my first practice and to grow this company. And so, it's amazing. Like I was on a call with a really smart dental student from Indiana University the other day, and he had asked me a question. He's like, "Hey, when I get out of school, should I be throwing money into, should I be just maxing my 401k and like aggressively paying down student loans?" And I said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." And by the way, that question, he's like, my mother-in-law is asking me this all the time. I'm like, "Tell your mother-in-law you love her, but she needs to stop asking you questions. Here's why. You shouldn't be doing it like, yeah, okay, if you want to maximize your 401k, fine, but like student loans, forget about it. Pay the minimum out and go invest the maximum that you can in yourself and soft skill development. You should be doing improv classes. You should be getting into public speaking, taking public speaking lessons. And like to me, those would be two of the biggest ones because every single time we see a patient, you're on stage. You're on a one-on-one stage. And just like you do when you're talking to 1,000 people, you need to be able to elicit an emotional response. And that's the only way to be influential. You need that one patient leaving your office thinking about you, just like you do when you're speaking in front of 1,000 people. You need 480 of those people leaving that speech thinking about you for the next 3 days. And that's value. And it's the same way in medicine. So, when I'm mentoring, yes, there are, especially young dentists, there are some hard skill conversations that we have, but 90% of it revolves around building soft skills.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's like that everywhere. I've shared with you before, I used to be a teacher, and that
Mhm.
really is quite performative. And it's one long speech, essentially, depending on how you do it. And yeah, those skills just, I mean, I can't even think of how much they've helped me in my own life. It's just, it's basically provided everything I've ever tried to do. So yeah, it's interesting to see that you really pour into it. And the one thing that popped in my mind was about stacking different skills as well. I know that Steve Jobs, I'm sure you've heard the story, he did that calligraphy course when he was at university. Never really thought too much of it. And then when he was designing Apple, he thought, right, what about instead of just having the same typography, we can have beautiful typography. And that then sort of set Apple up to be something slightly different. So you never quite know. But I think so much of healthcare, people are really focused on the actual practice of the work they're doing, the cleaning, the understanding the roots if in dentistry, for example.
Yep. It is. Most are focused on hard skills, and that's why it's become such a commoditized space. Like healthcare is wildly commoditized. I mean, how many family physicians does anybody know anymore that own their own practice?
Yeah.
Like I can't name five on I can't think of five off the top of my head, and that's very different than 35 or 40 years ago. It's wildly commoditized. It's very insurance driven, and dentistry has just followed that roadmap. And I don't think we need to follow that roadmap. And, so I think soft skills build brand. And when you have brand, you don't need to be the commodity. You don't have to be doing $79 hygiene specials and free exams and free x-rays for everybody that frickin' comes in your office. They're coming to see you because of who you are, not what you do. And I think that's what differentiates those that become wildly successful and those that stay a commodity. And honestly, by the time they're 42, just hate what they do.
And actually, I think there's a big window at the moment because everyone's so commodity driven. I mean, I often speak, and I'm not trying to disregard dentistry at all, but sometimes I speak of it a bit like their affiliate marketing. The big companies like Align and the guys who make the Straumann implants and things like that. rather than building their own story. And so I think let's touch on that because I know you're huge on building your own story. I mean, you're doing this podcast, for example, you do a lot of different things in a lot of different places.
Mhm.
I know looking through some of the things you've said that I remember seeing it that you said, I wish I'd done this 20 years ago or whatever it was that you'd many years before you'd started. So why don't you tell us a little bit as we segue into thinking about building businesses, about how much telling your story and just being yourself, which no one can mimic, has made a difference?
It's everything. I mean that like at scale, it is everything. And you know, as dentists, like I think we're super focused, and my focus with our doctors is to make them local legends within a 10-mile radius of their practice. And to do that, you have to have brand. You don't do that through a direct mailer. You don't do that through, a single billboard. You do that just through the authenticity of who you are and your story. And I believe that the best way to get that out, because, everybody is spending over 3 hours a day on social media. So the best way to do that is through Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, um, and to create a ton of organic content that really that performs well. And that's the best way to build brand. I would have started that process. I did not have a social media account until probably 2 years ago. Now, like, hello, Hughes. I mean, come on, man. Like, I had probably consumed 500 hours of Gary V's content, of Gary Vaynerchuk's content up to that point. And, it's like why it took me so long for that to just click. I mean, I'm literally on a flight from Fort Wayne, Indiana to Atlanta, Georgia, where I was going to connect over to Savannah, or yeah, Atlanta, Georgia over to Savannah, Georgia. I'm flying back from Indiana, and like it just clicked. I'm like, dude, this is what you have to do. This is how you build brand at scale. Like you've grown you've grown practices, but now to scale that, we've got to build bigger brands. So um I don't know why it took so long. And it's funny, like I was having a conversation. I do some work with David Rock, who D Rock helped build Gary Vee's brand for like a decade. And um, you know, he was sort of laughing at me, I don't know what, 2 weeks ago. He's like, man, sorry our content took 500 hours to finally freaking click, man. It's like, and I'm like, I get it. I don't know why it took so long, but we've got to get more people in the dental space to understand that this is where human eyeballs are at, right here. Get in front of them. If you think you're going to get patients to just leave, like if you think you're going to have 4 patients every day leave your practice and go refer 3 people in, you're mistaken. Like you can build that way, but you're not going to build fast that way. And I think it's going to take in today's world, it's going to take way too long, and things are way too expensive to sit around and wait for that kind of stuff. So we've got to be building brand at scale on social platforms.
Well, I also think that when you're doing that, it actually fuels the referral process anyway, because it gives someone something to say. Because otherwise, you're like, oh, I had this amazing dentist and they were really good at doing my dentist stuff, you know? It's much more fun to say, oh, yeah, yeah, my dentist. And he's like really into, like Gary Vee, he's really into the Jets. And I don't even know anything about the Jets, but I know that, for example.
Yep.
I mean, it's why I partly talk about Leicester City because it's something that I go and follow them around like, I don't know, a crazy person, I guess. And people get to know that, you know?
They get to know it, and you build little relationships with all the players on the team, and you feel like you kind of get to know them, and the more that they put themselves out there, the more connected you feel to it. And it's been that way with Indiana University basketball for me my entire life. Like growing up with Bobby Knight as the coach. I mean, one of the greatest of all time. You just feel connected to those sports teams. But to your point, we have patients that come in the office all the time, and they would say, "Oh man, I saw your content on Facebook." And they come in, they know you, they like you, they already trust you. They've gone through that initial dating phase.
Hmm.
They're there to marry you now. It doesn't take 6 appointments to like build that up, And so, I mean, just as a great example, we had this amazing lady. This was about 3 or 4 months ago. She was like 76 years old. She comes in. She had broken a tooth. She needs a crown. She knew that. She's like, I walk in the room all excited to see her, and she's like, you know why I'm here? I said, well, you broke a tooth. Like we need to fix that. She's like, yeah, that's why I'm here. But like, let's go a little deeper. Why I'm here is because I saw you talk about F1 racing on Facebook. And she's like, the greatest times in my life were when my husband and my three boys were driving around the Southeast with our drag race car that we used to go around and drag race all over the place. She's like, it was the greatest times of our lives. And she was like emotional about this. And she's like, the fact that you love racing, that's why I'm here. And I'm like, that's the thing, you know. And here, this is a son, this just amazing 76-year-old woman really connecting with the 45-year-old dude over car racing.
Hmm.
That's the power of exactly what you just said. It's just brand. It's who you are, and people want to go to a dentist or a healthcare provider. People are begging for authenticity in healthcare, and they want to go to a provider that they feel connected with and that they share similar interests and values.
And I think, like I said earlier, it really is easier now than ever. Not only is it firstly free, basically, to do it. I mean, okay, if you're Gary Vee and you've got a team following you around, it can be more expensive, but there's plenty of ways to do it free, to cost you time. And then it stays online for free. I mean, that's insane in someone's hand. Can you imagine if you told someone who's building a business 200 years ago that you could do that? Um, and finally, this is the other thing I was going to say is that you were saying you're not quite sure what took you so long to go out and crush it, as Gary would say.
Yeah.
Um, for me, it was kind of a fear thing. I don't know. It's a sort of procrastination and fear in the same sort of thing, and I still get it a little bit. And I commend you for your content because I see that not only do you manage to keep it up consistently, but you're also pretty firmly yourself, which is cool. But I think the key is just be yourself.
Yeah.
So many medics and healthcare people, they just want to make videos where they say, I don't know, like, have you got a missing tooth? When we do this, we what we do is we get these and we do this and we do no, not many people even care that much about that, I think. Not that you should only talk about F1, but your example just is
Talk
so
about
true.
everything. Yeah, just talk about everything. And I think like there is probably a time and a place. Like there's some incredibly smart people out there. Like if you're going to talk about implants, talk about some implants. Like but at the same time, like if I'm talking to a patient about an implant in the office, I'm not even going into that much detail as some of these people do in these videos. It's like they don't really, honestly, most of them don't want to know that much.
Yeah.
You're like, well, we're going to take this titanium screw and we're going to screw it down into your mandible. And like, hold up. I know I need it done. I'm good. Yeah, like I don't need the whole like, we're like in, we're gonna put some bone graft around that. We're gonna suture. They're like, just I'm good. Let's do the thing, and it's a pretty rare patient that needs that much detail. So like when you're just putting out these like explicit videos about this stuff, they're much more concerned about just yeah, who you are. I get people that come in all the time, like they know I love sports and they know that my teams. So I have Purdue University people that come in and that just to shit talk me. And it's like, only because we love sports, we don't have to love the same team. And like, but there's a great connection there, and it's fun. I mean, we've got like a guy that played football at Purdue and then played for the Chicago Bears in the NFL, and he loves to come in and just talk, because Indiana basketball has been terrible for like 20 years. He loves to talk Purdue basketball because they're really good, unfortunately. And it makes for a really good relationship. And then we just have to create a little bit of, we create some value actually with the hard skills, but it's all just relationship based. And I think, when you can do that consistently, you hit the nail on the head with fear. It is 100% fear based for most people. They have a fear of being on camera. They fear looking awkward. They have a fear of judgment from their team members, from other providers. They're the fear of judgment of someone giving them a negative comment on social media. Like, who cares? I think my thing and why it took me so long was I just had a very old school mindset around what social media really was. And that was that it was like, oh, it's Jenny taking a picture of her sushi dinner and like posting it for her friends to see. And that is not the case at all. Like that is 2012 social media. We live in a 2025 social media, which is actually interest media, which means you're only getting things on the feed that the algorithm knows you want to see. So like that stuff, like I was just living in a, you know, I hate to admit I was like being a typical dentist, but like I was living in 10 years ago world and not like up to speed world. And and I'm glad that finally, the switch kind of flipped and we're doing things differently now.
Well, it's great to hear. Yeah, I was going to ask you when you're getting your, let's say, the practice leaders of each of your practices to be these local heroes, what is it that you do with them to break down that barrier? But actually, I'm going to spin it because I'm going to try and get some advice for myself because I make the content. I do this stuff as well. I mean, I have this podcast and I post on LinkedIn and things like that.
Yep.
What can I do to be even more myself, to be even more brave, to be just to not worry about it and just go for it and keep consistent? How do I do that?
Do more.
Fair enough.
I like that. I mean, just do more, right? One of the things that I was challenged to do was to do 50 tweets in a day. You go,
Wow.
oh, 50 tweets in a day. Like nobody cares. Nobody cares. Just do more because the reality is that you could have 10,000 followers on Twitter or you could have 25,000 followers on Instagram and you could go make 10 posts a day. And unless the algorithm is pumping, like you might have a follower that doesn't see any of those posts that day and might get one the next day, might get one 4 days later. So like you got to get content out there. And I think, and I think too, and that's like very macro. So like just do more. I'm not into this like just do better quality but do less. Like no, because you have no control over where that algorithm's going to shoot it to. You got to get attention on you. And if it's actual attention you're trying to get, you need to make pieces of content that are going to hit different niches. And the only way to do that is to make more content. And two, I mean, one, do more, and two, just you've just got to be, to your point, just you.
Yeah.
I
You
swear in
could
my
say to
content,
do
people are
more.
like, yeah, like they're like I'm a dentist who curses every once in a while, and every once in a while somebody's like, oh my, like that's not professional. I'm like, you think your dentist doesn't swear? Like, I go to dental meetings, you should hear the words. It's like just because they don't do it when you're around because they're being whatever they're being, like, come on, like I think there's just a realness to it that a vulnerability and a realness that people can relate to.
Definitely. And also, like what you were saying about not necessarily trying to make the perfect content, which I just think is crazy anyway, because it's only a 20-second clip. And most of the things we say are not pre-planned and perfect anyway when we're
Yep.
just having a normal conversation. And that's how I try to treat it. It's ultimately people see your face, they hear your voice. There's tons of things that they're picking up without the words that you're even using. All the non-verbal communication. So that's the kind of stuff that you really compounds over time. You just get to know someone's face, makes a difference.
You get to know somebody's face, and I think that's where you build, because in health, I mean, if we really relate it to like healthcare, we talk about trust, right? So I am huge on like know you first, like you second, then trust you. And when I say that you skip those first 6 appointments, it's like when somebody comes into your dental practice because they did a little Google click ad and they're coming in because you give them a free exam or something, like how long do you think it really takes for that person to trust you? It takes a while. But if they've seen your content for 6 months on Instagram, they know you. They know your face, they know your story, they know you, like you, trust you, and that's a different conversation and that's a different ball game. And like so I think that's how you scale trust.
I really like that. That's how you scale trust. And also back to what we were saying, people are not doing it. So it's
And they're not
like a real gap that's actually quite easy because, pretty much everyone is like spending money on Google ads and sending
yeah.
out Facebook ads and doing their SEO and all these different bits and bobs. And if you're not, then you probably should. But then if you want to get above everyone who's doing that, this is the lever to pull. So, okay, so let's go into the 9 practices that you have. Obviously, you had great successes with the first one, scaled that, tripled that uh, as the goal before you said you wanted to move on.
Yep.
Um, I'm really interested in how you embed new values, well, not new values, but your values into a practice. when you establish a new one, because I think that's key based on what I've kind of read about you already in
Yeah.
terms of what you think, and I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah. You have to recruit for exactly those values. So that means that so if we're going to take a new acquisition, I think that's what you're talking about. So like if we're taking a brand new acquisition, you have to go into that number one with very clear expectations. This is our vision. These are our core values. This is the operations game that we're going to play. And this is how we're going to grow this practice. And here's why it's good for you. But above all, clear expectations. Some will align with that and some will not. And the ones that do not, it doesn't matter if they've been there for 30 days or 30 years. It just might not be the right fit. And as much as you want to try to put a square peg in a circle hole, you've got to make that decision quickly that it's just not going to work out. And now you've got to go attract the right talent into the practice because that's the only way it's going to work. And um, you've got to have the right team. If you don't have the right team, I can sit there and beat my head against a wall and try to incorporate my values, my operational systems, all the things that are going to help that doctor go be wildly successful. If the team around them is not bought into that, it's not going to work. And I'll give you there was I got this text last night at like 10:30 last night from one of my regional managers up in Indiana. And we had a doctor yesterday who had the best day he's ever had in practice in over 30 years. And I'm like, it's cool. Like, that's what he asked me to do when he and I sat down 11 months ago. And I told him, no more excuses. We will partner in your practice. Here's what's going to happen, and we can take your practice and grow it. I told him I don't think everybody's going to come along for the ride, unfortunately, but as long as you're aligned and you're on board, we will build a team around you that's amazing. So, um, we acquired this practice 6 months ago, and there are a couple team members that are left, but multiple team members have either not made it through for the first 6 months, or a couple decided that maybe it was just time to retire, that type of thing. And we've now recruited a new team around him, people who are aligned, like minded. They are relentless human beings and they're hungry. And he just had his best production day in practice in over 30 years.
Oh, okay. I
So,
was waiting to hear whether it was going to be his best, like the way that he enjoyed it, or something
ever.
else.
His
I
best
see.
production day ever in 30 years yesterday on
Wow.
November 3rd, Monday, 2025, in over 30 years. So, it is my job to protect my best team members. That's my job. As the CEO of this company, it is to create a culture and to protect my best team members, protect those A players from the C players. So we had to move on from some C players. We've brought some A players in that really are hungry and really align. That's the only way that that's going to happen. And so I don't ever go into an acquisition thinking that they're all going to make it because they're probably not. And that's not because they're bad human beings. It's just that that doctor has partnered with us because they want to grow.
Yeah, and
And
something needs to change.
something has to change. Status quo is not going to get us there. And they have trusted me to go make that happen. So, sometimes we just have to make that decision and that's okay. Like, it's a win-win for everybody. So, but it really starts with the teams that we build around our doctors.
And I wonder how much, I'm sure I know the answer, but I wonder how much your content plays a part in making the hiring easier as well.
A big part. It's a simple answer because it's a big part. We have hired some of our absolute best people because of content.
Yeah, because I bet they see it and think, this is cool. I want to
Yeah.
be a part of this. And this
Well,
guy
and
seems cool. And
when we talk relationship, they already know me. They know what the company's about.
mm.
And they've seen it now for a long period of time. You can go back 200 videos and it's the same message over. Like, it's not just some fake video you saw one time on a website and they're like, they look cool. You can fake that until you're blue in the face. You can't fake long-term consistency. So, those are people that come to us and they're like, man, you guys are exactly the type of people. And not just me. Like, I have a team, I have an HR director, I've got marketing director. I've got a director of operations. We've got a guy in business development. Like I have a whole team of people creating content
Oh,
that attract people into our company. And they're like, it's not just you, it's these other 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 people. Like you can't fake that.
mm.
So they kind of know what they're getting into, and that really helps us attract the right kind of people, which is I don't think there's anything more important.
That's definitely something that people are missing a trick on is getting their other team members, especially senior people, to actually make content based on themselves and the company and the connection between those two things. If you've got 5 people, 6 people, you're 6xing the output and also obviously hitting different niches because someone who might think, oh, Brad, he's a bit much. I don't like the swearing. They might be like, oh, Susie's really lovely. And,
Yeah, 100%. And it paints the picture of who we are.
mm,
That's it. Oh, and by the way, that's brand.
yeah.
So like it really is though, we think of ourselves as a media company that happens to do dentistry.
Mm. That's
I think
pretty.
I put out 26 pieces of content yesterday between multiple platforms.
Wow, that's actually seriously good volume. I did not know that.
Hmm.
That's why I need to step out of the chair, I guess.
It helps. I have time. I have time. Like life is like the sun is shining down and it's beautiful. It really is good to actually be able to work on personal brand, work on the company, not just every day in it.
Mm.
It's a wildly different ball game. And but really, at the management level, I have attracted over the years team members to me that share this same mindset. So for them, they don't put out the same kind of the same volume of content, but they put out enough. They get enough attention that people really do pay attention. When they go to a meeting, people have seen their stuff. And, that's good. That's getting some eyeballs on you. And that's all we're trying to do.
And also, if you're going for an acquisition and you and 3 people turn up and they happen to know all 4 of you now, that's extra trust, really. That's great to hear. I'd love to hear about what it's been like now that you have, well, kind of on one side, so much time on your hands, but also obviously it's filled. Because from
Yeah.
my perspective, uh, I have a marketing agency and I very rarely sort of am deep in all of the intricacies all the time. It's been quite easy to start kind of out of it. And
Yep.
from one of the things I've not struggled with, but I always try to battle with each day is making sure I'm doing the right things at the right time. Because you can very easily do something that just is not that important. So
Yep.
I'd love to hear how that's changed over the last couple of months when you've made this leap.
Yeah. I think it really hasn't been that hard to understand what levers need pulled the most because when I was still clinical 4 days a week, I had to be incredibly intentional about those levers. Like I had Fridays to just balls to the wall, or I had evenings, or I had like 30-minute lunch breaks, or like a little bit of time between. So I kind of knew what was going to bring the biggest bang for the buck, so to speak. So I still do all of that. Now I'm just able to do even more of it. So I'm doing kind of the same things, honestly, just more of it. Like I'm able to not just have a management meeting on a Friday, which I hate, by the way, because it's like you get through the whole week and everything is like really revisionary. Well, this happened on Tuesday. Okay, well, it's Friday. There's nothing we can do about that now. Now it's like we can meet at the beginning of the week. We can create some momentum and energy for the week. And by Friday, it's like way less reactionary. And the things that I see on Friday now are more of what we created on Monday, which that to me is like amazing. I love that. And it also means that there's a little bit less work that I have to do at 9 o'clock at night. I don't think people probably realize the amount of things I was doing at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. And that's not like pat me on the back. That's just because I had to get things done. I'm able to do a lot more of that now at 2 in the afternoon. I'm able to have like normal meeting times when
Yeah.
normal people are working, um, so I think in that aspect, I'm doing very similar to the same things. Now, we do have signed LOIs on two more practices. So like I want to go do 8 acquisitions in the next 14 months. And two of those we have signed LOIs. So like we'll hopefully get to close on those and then we'll just need six more. But it has freed me up a lot more in that space. So I'm very focused on external growth right now. Um, I think we have a window right now that we need to go scale. We need to move a little faster than I have been. I think being in the weeds of being clinical every day, like it was easy to be a little complacent around like, yeah, like we're going, but like we got to move a lot faster now, and that's good. I think that's a really good thing. We're built for it. We've got a management team that's built for it. Um, so I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I'm able to focus on significantly more. And by the way, I can like go hop on an airplane in like 2 days and just go, meet with a doctor, or I can jump on Zoom when they can jump on Zoom, and I don't have to like it doesn't take me a week to find a time. So that's been a big thing for us.
Yeah, that's great. So what's happened that's made you think, okay, we need to scale for or grow really faster and then scale it?
Yeah, good question. One, because I built a management team that was built to be probably big enough to support 16 to 20 practices, and we're only at nine. So I sort of front loaded the management team size because I didn't want to do it in the opposite way because you start stretching people too thin and you start making hires that maybe don't make sense. Like I wanted to build it out, have us ready to go, and then go scale. Number two, um, we've been at this nine practice, like we acquired one practice this year, like that's fine. Um, I just think, I have a thesis that I think 15 years from now, the top 15 largest DSOs are going to own 80 to 85% of all of the groups and practices out there because I think this consolidation is going to really start moving very fast. Um, so we just need some size. We need some size. We need size to compete. I don't want to get swallowed up sooner than I need to. So, and because I just love to freaking build shit. So like I want to do it because it's fun. And I want to rinse and repeat the things that we've done and create some incredible opportunities for more partner doctors to go build some net worth. And I want to do it before everything really starts getting swallowed up into the mouth of the blue whale, so to speak. And I think to do that, we need to get moving. Speed in business I think is important. And I think I've been sitting on my hands for a little too long. And that's my own fault.
Well, it's great that you're having this feeling because it seems like you had the content thing that you weren't doing for ages and then suddenly you just snapped. Same
Yeah.
with this here. It's interesting. It'd be really interesting to see if you can challenge your mind now to think, what is it that's made me be like, okay, let's just rock and roll. This is like, all those classic uh slight cliches of there's no better time than now and all that kind of stuff. But it's easy to say it. It's a different thing to just go and do it.
It's a very different thing to do it. I don't know what one thing it was. I don't know. I think um, whatever it was, it in my life, like so many times, it's been that one moment where it's just like the light bulb goes off, you flip the switch, whatever. Maybe it's something you're thinking about for like, you can just let her in. It's like the dog's out here like whining to come into the back porch. It's like one thing that I'm thinking about and just bam, all the stars align and it just boom and then we just go execute. And I think those have been the most successful things I've ever done in my life. I mean, this is from the time my first memories. Like it's just always been that way. So I'm not saying my thesis will be correct. I mean, let's say the top 15 own 60% of the practice. That's still a hell of a lot of consolidation. I think it's going to be more than that. Um, so I think we need to get moving.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's touch on one last subject, which is AI. We have to talk about it a little bit. What are you, besides obviously using like ChatGPT to ask for restaurant recommendations and like to help you draft
Yeah.
things and whatnot, what are you doing with AI in your practices? What do you say to the new people when you've acquired a new practice saying this is how we do it? And maybe how do you foresee what we're going to be doing in the next couple of years?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think what's coming is probably significantly bigger than what is there right now in the dental space. I mean, if you look at, I mean, to start out, we use Overjet in our practices. So we're using Overjet AI for our x-rays. And it's good, right? Like it really serves a purpose. I think it's especially good for patients. It's like you pull up an x-ray, it's like there's a big old red area on there, like, look, anything that's red is decayed, and they're like, ah, shoot, like, okay, I got a cavity. I can see that versus like that big dark spot you were trying to show me. Like, I think it just really helps from a patient case acceptance standpoint, especially for younger doctors. Fantastic. I'm a little over all of the like AI receptionists out there. I mean, geez, like there's freaking 110 of them. Like they're not there yet. I think it will get there, and
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting. I think there'll be probably three or four players that win that game. The rest of them will miserably fail per usual. Um, and I think there's going to be an AI practice management software also that wins. I think we're gonna because there's no really one practice management software that just kills it. I mean, we use Dentrix in all of our practices because the cloud base, um, you're kind of screwed if the internet's not working that day. Like, good luck. Um, and I'm still good. Like, we have servers, all this stuff. Like, they're secure, all of whatever. But I think eventually somebody's going to create an AI based practice management software that's going to have x-rays in it. It's or like things that like Overjet and Pearl do where we're going to have the AI overlay. um it's going to have patient communication. It's going to do a lot of the RCM stuff. It's just going to be one software, and it's going to do all the things that we now have to like piece and put together, like a car that was, a 1964 car that you can't get parts to anymore. Like that's most dental software, which is just annoying as hell. And somebody's going to come along and they're going to win that game, and it's going to be AI driven, and it's going to be amazing. And I don't know who it's going to be. Um,
They need big pockets for both of those.
you need some big pockets, and there are some companies doing it. I had a demo with a company, Trust AI, not too long ago. Like they've got some very interesting things, and I am sort of blown away by a lot of what they're doing. I'm like, if they can really pull all that off, like game over for most of these other practice management software. So, I think RCM is going to be AI driven. I don't think there's any one software out there again that just like blows all the others out of the way or out of the water. But I think we're close. Like obviously AI is probably going to be bigger than the freaking internet.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just I don't even think I can comprehend
no way.
um, the scale of what it's going to be doing a decade from now. And like I have 6-year-old twin daughters. Like I can't imagine when they're 45 my age.
Yeah, yeah. That one
Right.
really is far. I'm thinking even in 5 years, like we might not have
Yeah.
iPhones, for example, or
I,
smartphones, you know?
I think eventually we're all going to be wearing glasses around.
Yeah.
I legit, and you're going to be sitting there. We're all going to be swiping up and down with our glasses, and nobody's going to know who's talking to who, and it's just going to be this wild thing where everybody's recording everything, and it's going to be crazy. But at the same time, like I'm kind of here for it, right? Like, I mean, like if I could have a Waymo or a robo taxi come pick me up every morning to go to work, I would love to just hit an autonomous vehicle picks me up. I can sit in the back. I can do work. I get
Yeah.
driven to wherever I'm going without a human driver. Fantastic. Like we will cut down on car accidents. Like we'll cut down on drunk driving accidents. It's going to make the world a much safer place in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways, it'll make the world a much scarier place. But I think dentistry in particular, uh, it's going to blow some things out of the water, but we're still going to have to do procedures. We're still going to have to have high case acceptance. We're still going to have to, have high collections. It'll just make things more efficient to where we can probably work with less human capital. Um, but I don't think it's not going to probably replace, the dentist in the chair, at least not probably in my lifetime. I have no idea what robots will be doing 50
Yeah.
years from now. I have, who knows, but um, it'll be interesting to see.
especially when we're no longer wearing the glasses and we can still do all that stuff, the
Yeah.
implants or something.
Now it's a contact lens, and then it's
Yeah.
just some kind of implant, and then it's like, yeah,
Yes.
like it
And then it's,
just.
are we actually in a simulation? Then we just get in that mix, basically.
And
Um,
there are times I'm convinced we're in a simulation. Like I'm pretty sure Elon is just like simulating this whole thing. Like I, but it will be very interesting. And that's why like almost like as where we started, like my grandfather starting 71 years ago, and I'm like, he passed away in 2008, and like just the things that happened in his lifetime is sort of mind blowing. And then in my dad's lifetime and in my lifetime, and the part that gets emotional for me is thinking about that in my kid's lifetime. It's things that I won't see that they will. Um, it's amazing, cool stuff.
yeah, I think you've got to have just an enjoyment and excitement for it. Otherwise, it's all very terrifying. But, people were terrified of like the hammer when they first saw it. Not that I've seen any accounts, but I'm sure that was pretty terrifying.
Well, they were terrifying of Elvis Presley was going to ruin the world, right? With his because he was shaking his hips like in
Yeah.
his when he would sing, like heaven forbid, like it's at every level and in every generation. There's always something that's going to ruin the world. So I mean, as a society, as a world, we advance or we die. I mean, it's pretty simple. Like I don't think we're going back to the horse and buggy time anytime soon.
It also, historically, most people, every generation feels like this is A, the generation where there's maybe going to be no wars, and B, is the generation where everything's going to end and it's all going to be game over. So
Hmm.
you just, they've all done that. They were thinking that forever.
They've all done
Okay,
it. They
well,
all think it.
so Brad, I've got one final question for you,
Yep.
which is if you could go back 20 years, let's say, and speak to Brad from 20 years ago, what would be, if you can only give one piece of advice to them, what would be that one piece of advice that you could give?
I would give two pieces of advice. So I'm going to take your question. I'm going to give you two things. Number one, um, it's be an earlier adopter of brand on social media platforms. I wish I could go back to the early days of YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and be building out on there because I think my company would be 5 times further down the road than where we are right now. And that doesn't mean it's too late to start, by the way. So anybody listening, just like go do it like in 3 minutes. And number two, I would have bought Bitcoin in like 2012 at scale, and life would be a little bit different.
Fair enough. I love it. Yeah, I think we should actually say that it's not too late to start. You may be thinking, oh, Dr. Brad started 2 years ago and that felt late for him, and now it really is too late. It really isn't too late. Like
It's
it
so early.
actually isn't.
It is still so early in every space. It is still so early.
Yeah. Okay, well, Brad, thank you so, so much for sharing all of this. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. I really hope that you've taken some great value from that. Please do like and subscribe, as much as it pains me to always ask, but please do that. And also, if you want to follow Brad, like, come on, Brad, tell us where can they find you? How can they maybe even get in touch with you if they have questions?
Yep. Instagram, Dr. Brad Hughes. LinkedIn, Brad Hughes. TikTok, Dr. Brad Hughes. Those are probably the best ways to get in contact with me. So follow me on there and send me some DMs, please.
Okay, cool. Well, Brad, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun, man.